Welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr.Toni G. Alvarado. We are still in the month of October and we have been talking to survivors all month, survivors of domestic violence and survivors of breast cancer. This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence or Intimate Partner Violence Month. And so this month we decided that we would have some survivors of both domestic violence and breast cancer to come and share with us, share their journey, their stories, and encourage us whether we have been victims of domestic violence or whether we have had issues in our body with cancer or particularly breast cancer or not. These women's stories are so powerful and dynamic and will empower and inspire us to take better care of ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of the above. Okay. So today, just like all the other episodes of our podcast, I promise that you will be enlightened, you will be informed, and you will be encouraged to harmonize your life and to be the best version of yourself. So we will be right back right after this, and we will get started with our guests for this week. Well, we are back with our guest for this week, Dr. Cynthia Turner, who is our illustrious guest who will be our dialogue partner this week. I want to read a little bit of her impressive bio to you. Dr. Cynthia Turner is an educator, an ordained minister, and a PK, preacher's kid. She currently serves as an associate minister at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church under the leadership of Pastor Keith Troy in Columbus, Ohio. Now, you know, when I read that in your bio, I got so excited. We love Dr. Troy and Brenda and Minister Reverend Brenda.
That's right.
I am, that's my friend.
Yes, absolutely. I know how
we
close
have
you all
history
are.
with your church. My husband grew up in Columbus, Ohio, so
right.
He spent a lot of time at New Salem when he was coming along.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I preached.
That's right.
Were you at the women's retreat?
I sure was. I was like, listen, I think I was in the choir. I may have even directed a song or two during the Women's Day.
Yes. So I love me some Brenda Troy.
Yes, she wonderful.
She's fire. When I'm telling you,
that's fire. Correct.
I mean, she is. I call her a spiritual ninja. She's so just short and petite, but powerful.
That's it.
Powerful. Yes. I'm gonna have to get her on the podcast because
you do. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'll definitely get her on. Okay, so listen. I want you all to just hear a little bit more of her bio. So Dr. Turner has been an active member in her church where she resides in Columbus, Ohio. As you've heard us discussing, she is not only a minister there, but she's a musician, choir director, and a director of women's ministry and young adult ministry. She is a CPA and an accounting professor at the Ohio State University, Fisher College of Business. And she's been there since 2019 and has served on the leadership team of Fisher College of Business as assistant dean and diversity officer. In this role, she has strategically focused on systematic and structural changes to advance inclusive excellence for Fisher's more than 8,000 current students, 300 faculty, and staff of 80,000 alumni. Wow. She has been recognized nationally as a DEI strategist. Dr. Turner considers one of her greatest testimonies to date is her victory over breast cancer in 2007. As a breast cancer survivor, she believes that during her period of healing, God used her physical battle as a spiritual classroom. Consequently, she feels that God's dialogue with her during this valley experience afforded her the honor to taste of God's faithfulness and grace and hear afresh God's desire for women of God to be totally attuned to God's will, mind, spirit, and body. Having revamped her entire dietary life and physical lifestyle, in 2008, she wrote about the spiritual insights that she gained from her life-altering experience in her first book entitled My 7-Day Makeover, One Breast Cancer Survivor's Spiritual Journey. Dr. Turner currently sits on the board of directors for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Ohio, the Women of Economic Leadership and Development and Advisory Board for the Women's Business Collaborative. Dr. Turner is summa cum laude graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, and she received both her MA and PhD in accounting at The Ohio State University, becoming the first African-American woman ever to do so. And your husband also teaches at Ohio State.
Yes, he does. But let me correct something here. You talked about me leading the women's ministry. That's been over my lifetime.
Over your tenure.
Yeah.
You're not the current director. I understand.
No, that's
served in that capacity.
Yeah. Yes.
I understand.
But yes, my husband is he is a music professor and teaches jazz guitar at Ohio State. In fact, I met him here my first time when I was a grad student. I met him. He was actually serving in a similar capacity here at Ohio State. But actually, I met him at church. I met him at New Salem. We wrote.
I love that. I understand. I met my husband in church too.
Yes.
That's a good place to meet your husband.
It is, isn't it? Best place.
Or your wife. Yes, it's a good place.
That's right.
That's a good place. And my daughter is there at
Ohio
State University, and
I
talked to her earlier today, and she was telling me, excuse me, that she finally met your husband.
That's right. Yes. I was so excited because Ohio State is so big, and sometimes it's difficult. You have to be intentional in connecting. So I was really happy to hear that. He texted me and said, yes, I finally met her. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. So I'm hopeful that they will continue to communicate and connect over there.
Yeah, so I'll have to add you to Ariel's list of aunties.
That's it.
That's it. She got a whole cadre of aunties there.
That's
in
right.
Ohio. So I'll add you to that list.
Please do.
That's right. You know how we do in the Black community, girl.
That's it.
Look out for each other's kids.
For each other's kids. That's right. And in fact, I'm sorry that we didn't connect when my son was at Morehouse. He was there from 2016
Are you serious?
Yes, he was there.
That's the same time my son was there.
You know what? I wonder if they probably know each other.
When did your son graduate?
2020.
My son graduated in class of 2019.
So I know they.
So Ariel graduated in 2021. So she was there.
Okay.
At Spelman.
Oh, okay. Wow. So
and Jonathan,
I need to find out.
Yeah, 2015 to 2019. Yeah, I could have added him because I got I got particularly two additional Morehouse sons besides mine. Two of Jonathan's classmates really almost lived with me while they was here. Well, they did. They crashed it so much they might as well. And I thought they are my forever Morehouse sons.
Oh yeah, okay. Morehouse does it right. It does. Yes.
You're on Morehouse.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming in. We have so many connections. Wow.
Yes, we do.
Amazing. We have so many connections, and God's timing is perfect because last year I wanted you to come on the podcast and talk about your journey, and then it just didn't happen. So I'm so glad that everything worked out this year for us to get you on the podcast to talk about your journey
Yes.
with breast cancer. And so, why don't you just, I'm gonna let you share a little bit of your journey with us, and why you're passionate about empowering women. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I know it comes from your own experience, but tell
Right,
us a little bit
right.
about your story and your battle with breast cancer.
Sure. So when I graduated from Ohio State, I actually my first position was as in a professor role at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign.
Mhm.
So anybody who knows the Illinois area realize Champaign is not Chicago, which is it is a college town, but it was a great um, community that my both my sons, Julian, I was mentioning to you, both he and my youngest son, who's a junior here at Ohio State, both of them were born and raised in Champaign. Um, like many of us who may be on this call, um, had graduated, had all these aspirations of what I was going to do. I
Mhm.
was all about really furthering my career and doing what I need to do, but I also wanted to be a great mom and great wife. My husband and I married shortly after I graduated, and so life was busy with the boys. I took on the task of trying to do it all,
Mhm.
be the great mom, great wife, and a career woman. With that came, taking care of everybody but myself.
Mm.
And It kind of caught up with me. I recall it was in 2006. It was actually September the 27th. I remember that day. I was going for my physical, just a routine physical checkup. Had a great doctor who, prior to that, my mom um, had mentioned, she said, Cynthia, you got a crazy cough. You need to check that. I was like, oh, it's just, I got a bad cold. That's all. And went to the doctor, do the checkup. She was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that cough doesn't sound too good. And then she was going through the routine of checking, doing a physical check of my breasts, and she kept kneading in an area that was, to me, up under my arm, and she kept saying, I'm feeling something here. Probably nothing but a fibroadenoma, which is something that Black women tend to have, and it's very
Mhm.
common. It's benign. She said, but just in case, let's just go and have you follow up with a mammogram. Now, at the time, I was 38, so that was something that was not
Mhm.
typical, given
Mhm.
typically they don't
Yeah.
suggest
Mhm.
that you do that until a little older. But I did have an aunt who had breast cancer, and so that encouraged her, and thankfully so, to have me follow up. And let me say, when she was feeling, she wanted to make sure that I knew what she was actually feeling, which was nothing that I would have imagined what breast cancer would feel like. It didn't feel like a lump like we sometimes hear it. It
Okay.
felt like it felt like a rock. It felt like a little. In fact, she took her a minute to help me understand. It was right up under my arm. It wasn't even close to my chest like I thought,
Mhm.
expected it to be. So because she had said, "Oh, fibroadenoma, that's common," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's what it is." I
Mhm.
said, "I'm claiming that."
Mhm.
Went home.
Mhm.
Got a call back and later that day to say, Cynthia, well, you may, among other things that we were looking at, we discovered, you're walking around with pneumonia. And I said, pneumonia? She was like, yeah, we need to get you in and get you, the medications for that, but you need to start, you need to slow down. So that's what you said, but I'll see you in a couple of weeks after the your mammogram. So anyway, we didn't do the routine mammogram. She did decide to do an
Right.
ultrasound version of it to really kind of take a look at it. And my husband, I got home, told him about it, and I said, but hey, claiming victory, God is with me.
Mhm.
I was, at the time, I think I was leading the youth, young adult ministry, the young adult choir, in fact, at my church, real involved. So I was doing it all. But I was to me,
Mhm.
at the cost of, again, not thinking about myself. A couple
Mhm.
weeks went by, went back in to see my doctor. We really have a really great banter back and forth. And
Mhm.
so when she had me sitting there for so long, I had told my husband, don't come. We're good. She's going to tell me I'm fine and we're going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she had me sitting in the office for quite some time. I'm like, okay, why she has me sitting here that long? In fact, I peeked out the door. It's like, did she forget that she had me here, especially with this kind of news? And I was ready to, and the longer it took, the more I started kind of getting concerned because, again, I had immediately dismissed it, but it
Mhm.
had me sitting there. When she finally walked in, she had the laptop in front of her. She never peeked around that laptop, which was so unusual. And she sat down and said, Cynthia, you have breast cancer, just as plain as day. Like, when? What? And she said, yes. She said, and then she went on to proceed to talking about, yes, I need, next step is, you need to meet with, what's the doctor? The oh God,
Oncologist.
oncologist and all of this. And, at your age, she was just talking about the things we could do, but everything, it just, at that moment, I had to take a deep breath. Immediately, my husband's name is Kevin. Like, where is he? And it's like, Cynthia, you told him not to come now. And I was like, wait a minute, I need a moment. She said, let me go out. And I said, well, let me call my husband. I tried to call him. I couldn't reach him. Called my father, who is a pastor, and he started immediately praying with me. By the time I did reach Kevin, I had left a message. He knew where I was and he knew why. And so he immediately came to the office. But in between then,
Mhm.
the time of him arriving and my dad praying for me and me sitting in that space for a minute,
Mhm.
um, I realized that it was meant for Kevin to not have been there. He lost both his parents to some form of cancer as
Okay.
a child. He lost his mother when he was 7. He lost his dad when we first married. So he was, and so for him, he knew cancer to be a death sentence.
Okay.
And I knew in that moment that God was speaking something different to me, even though
Okay.
it was surreal
Mhm.
at best. I realized that I felt God saying, you're going to show him something different. You're going to
Okay.
show me to be a healer instead of a
Okay.
comforter.
Okay.
And in that moment, as much as it was, okay, what's next? I had an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. And we're talking about oncology visits and perhaps losing both breasts and all of that. My thing was, how do I make sure that my family, all of my men, because I'm the queen in my house. How do I make sure that they know that this is this is going to be an experience where we will see God be a healer. So when my husband came in, he could tell, and I ended up having to comfort him. And the moment I'm like, what is this? And I knew that perspective was going to be critical for me
Okay.
in my healing.
Say that again. Perspective.
The perspective was going to be critical.
That's, last week, our guest, Sarah Michelle,
Hmm.
who's a breast cancer survivor, she said almost word for word the same thing. Your
Oh gosh.
perspective was critical. She was like, for a moment, I asked her the question that I'll ask you. The first thought, what was your first thought when you heard the word cancer?
it was denial first, and then
Okay.
secondly, it was, okay, God, what you up to?
Okay.
I
Okay.
immediately took,
You
I was
shifted.
38. I shifted.
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Yeah.
no, you're not done with me yet. You can't. And so what is this that
Okay.
you want to
Okay.
get out of this? And
Mhm.
my thing was, and I tell you, it was interesting. So my husband, very private, said to me, so we don't have to tell anyone. And he said, so you just tell me how you want to proceed. And I said, now, and I thought about it and I said, now, if if I don't tell anybody, how they gonna know how to pray for me? How?
Oh,
I said, and if I'm gonna go through some stuff, I don't want people making up stuff. I
okay.
said, at least I want them to know what's
No,
going on,
exactly.
right?
Okay.
So I said, no, 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 we're going to share, because I need prayer. I need my prayer words. Now, what
Mhm.
was interesting during that time, I knew it was going to be difficult for me to tell my friends and my family. I heard in my dad's voice, I heard in my mother's voice. They live in Portsmouth, Virginia, so
Mhm.
they're far away. I'm the oldest of four,
Wow.
and I've been that. Uh, for them, that was. But my dad was strong for me and said, "Hey, he started that perspective shift about God being a healer, even in his prayer."
Mhm.
But I knew that me telling it was going to be harder. So I prepared my first, part of my book is just a series of my email messages that
Wow.
I sent out to my girlfriends, because I knew I wasn't ready to say it on the
Mhm.
phone, for I knew how they would respond, and I didn't think I was prepared for it. But I wanted to tell them, I wanted to direct the narrative.
Okay.
Here's what's going on. Here's how I need you to pray for me. Here's how I need you to support me. Because we, as a community, we've dealt with trauma all our lives. I know my mom,
Mm.
even though wasn't physical, the things that her perspective, always in any dark moment, she
Mhm.
was always that one that would
Mhm.
find something to
Mhm.
light levity in it. The
Mhm.
darkest moment, she would say
Mhm.
something that would go, now where she come up with that? That would make us go from being really sad to, okay, only mom could come up with something like that. And
Mhm. Mhm.
and I realized that was going to be my way of processing this, that I need to go through what I know, how I've gotten through so much in my life, which
Okay.
was through humor, through first trusting God, but
Mhm.
really looking at things from a perspective of not doom and gloom. But okay, God, as we go through this particular journey, how can I lighten the load for whoever falls? Because I know, God,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I'm going to put my story out for everybody to see, not at the end. I'm going to allow people to walk through this journey with
Mhm.
me, because I'm
Mhm.
giving you this stage, God. I'm trusting that
Yeah.
you're going to show out in this
Yeah.
on this stage,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I did. That was the way I handled it. And once I started telling everyone, it was interesting. They were like, could you add my girlfriend on this email chain? And so it went from 10 friends to ultimately, over the year I had 100 women that were on this email chain, that
Oh
after
my
I
God.
went through every um, every treatment, every doctor's office visit, everything, I tried to chronicle it, because it helped me perspective, understanding that, because I was sharing in it, and I was allowing
Mhm.
um, my prayer warriors to really know how to pray for me, not
Okay.
just pray for me in general. I was like, hey, I went into and they told me that I got to take this medication, but it has these particular side effects. So I need
Okay.
y'all to pray against all of them. And I would
Okay.
list every
Okay.
side
Okay.
effect.
Okay.
I need you to pray against it. And so I was very specific about how I wanted
Wow.
those who were on this journey with me to walk through this. And as I would encounter certain things, I would always and I'm gonna tell you why, because my friends and family and colleagues as they got news that I had breast cancer, everybody wanting to support me, they were sending me like books and all kinds of material. And what really kind of shook me was the fact that there were no books for people my age, 38, with young folks, with young kids. And the ones that were out there were so this how horrible it's going to be, and how it was so like, get this
No
book
hope.
out here. No hope, none, zero, zero.
Okay.
And so I said, I'm going to write this as I would have wanted for me to be encouraged.
Okay.
And so everything it had to have a purpose. I felt like by giving this journey a purpose, it helped me, again, perspective-wise, go through it. Knowing it wasn't just about me. It was.
Well, I mean, look at all the women that ended up on the email chain alone.
Listen, wait a minute. I don't even stop. My dad was interested because after, he was going through this and processing it himself and being away, he said to me, daughter, I need you to think about this. He said, at our church, we had a woman who was one of us women going through, and the women's ministry decided to have a praise party for her. And he said, have you ever thought about doing that? And so I said, praise party. I said, okay, so what did that involve? And he said, well, they used the church. They did a prayer circle. Then they had some kind of, and I said, and it was after her, after she went through the treatments and all. And I said, Dad, I like that, but you know what? I'm believing God so much that we're gonna have our praise party before I start my treatments, because I need to get in my head that I need that going into the battle instead of on the other side. So
I hear you.
My first lady at the time, and I told my sisters at my church, they were like, we got this. And they surrounded me. One day I was about to start chemo, and I tell you, because there were things that I was going through, even though I had the perspective now I'm human. So let me tell you, I went through some things where as soon as I would go to bed, because my breast cancer was in my left, on my left side, I would start experiencing in the middle of the night. I would wake up and my whole left side would be aching. Literally wake, and I was like, baby, oh my gosh, it's spreading. Before we went through everything, and about day 2 or 3, night 2 or 3, I woke up and God said, is that the perspective you want? And so in that moment, when I woke up and I felt the ache, it felt so real, because I was waking up, and this is what the mind will do.
Okay.
I said, I woke up that night because I would tell my husband, let's pray, against this. And I was like, I'm going to change this prayer. I would say, thank you, God, for just reminding me that you're already in the business of healing me. Thank you. Instead of saying, Lord, please, stop anything that's coming. I went to the perspective of, thank you for reminding me that you are thinking of me and you're covering me and you're already in the healing business. When I tell you that perspective shift in my head, I slept like a baby for the rest of my journey. I never woke up again. And then I realized how
powerful the mind
is, that it literally I was experiencing physical kind of experiences from that.
A panic attack or anxiety.
Listen, that's why I said my whole journey showed me how God, that the power of the tongue, and how that scripture really resonated as I went through. Every time they would tell me, hey, this may happen, I would pray that it would not. And that's what I would tell my sisters. Listen, they said this, but this is what we're praying for. Like, And that became, after I kept, these email journals and all, email logs and all, they were like, Cynthia, you need to, even though I wasn't planning on writing a book, but halfway through, they kept saying, are you keeping this? You really do need to write a book about this, because the way you're thinking about this is encouraging us, because everything that was about, I know God, for he's always been, blessed me and shown favor in my life, in my family, in my career. But I never had to trust him like this in my in a journey like this. I was triple negative, which means that everything that they knew that could cause breast cancer, I tested negative to. So basically what they were saying was, we can treat the symptoms, but because we don't know what caused it, if it comes back, if whatever triggered it the first time, if it comes back, that's not a good thing. And that is really, they call that the most aggressive form of breast cancer, this triple negative. And unfortunately, Black women under 40, tends to be our diagnosis. So again, all of that, I'm like, okay, God, I don't like the feeling. So basically what they wanted to do was throw the kitchen sink at me. They wanted to do chemo, radiation, surgery, all of that. And, the thing about it for me was, okay, but every time I would listen to, go through everything specifically, first of all, I'm still vain. I'm like, do I have to lose my hair? That was the first thing. I'm like, girl, I was like, y'all, can we pray that I don't have to lose my hair? So really my thought was, I want to do radiation. My prayer was, once they did the surgery to figure out what stage I was at, that it would come back, that all I had to do was the radiation. And so I wouldn't have to lose my hair, which is funny. So then once I started really understanding what my diagnosis was, which really, and at the time, which is 2006, and you know how technology is but at that point, radiation, the best that radiation could do on my left side was, and what they had, the treatment itself, the procedure, it could minimize the radiation to my heart, but they could not they could not guarantee that my heart would not experience some form of radiation, which meant that within 5 years I could suffer from heart failure. So I'm calculating this, and I was like, okay, so talk to me why we're doing both chemo. This is, again, as a woman now with I'm asking a lot of questions that most of us don't ask.
Okay, talk about that.
We don't ask. You tell us this, and we just say, oh,
and
okay.
We don't do our homework.
Listen,
and we just take what they say.
We do. When they were telling me all of this, and was basically, we're doing the chemo for this reason, get rid of all the cancer cells, but then we're doing radiation, concentrated area to remove. I said, but if you got rid of the cancer cells, chemo, why are we doing the radiation again? Because I'm trying to understand, in fact, how that is added, especially given the consequences I may face in 5 years as 43 with heart failure. So I started praying. My spirit just would not. I just had a hard time going, okay, God, I get it. If this is what's going to save my life, I'm fine with it. But help me understand why I'm not settled with it. So over that window of time when I'm trying to make a decision what my treatment was going to be, they told me, I said, can you give me the study that you are basing my treatment on? And it gave me the study to read through, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, wait. This study is based upon women from Europe who are over 70-some years old. So you did a whole study on 70-year-old European women, and you're taking
a 38-year-old
African-American woman.
Yeah.
That's what you're utilizing. So in my head, I'm like, oh, but here's the thing. So when I started doing the research, which is also in my book, there's no research on African American women because we are not.
Yeah.
That
We
is
don't,
just not a
yeah,
focus. We're not
we don't sign up
about.
for testing. I mean, for what they call them, clinical trials.
No, we don't. So there's no, at that point, there was no research that could point to what my particular situation, what's best for me. But in the meantime, as I'm looking at the studies and it's saying, okay, if you do chemo, it reduces your recurrence rate by a significant amount. And then if you add radiation, it reduces about a 10% more. And
Mhm.
then, like God, I'm looking online. It's October. I was diagnosed on October 16th. And so a lot of literature, everything is highlighting breast
Yeah, yeah,
cancer
yeah.
awareness. And there's this article that comes out that says that if you just change your lifestyle, change your and exercise, that exercise would reduce it by 20%
Mhm.
recurrence.
Uh-huh.
I said, wait, whoa. So I can do radiation, deal with heart failure potentially in 5 years, and it reduced the recurrence by another 10%. But I could just do what I need to be doing anyway, which is just working out, and I can reduce the recurrence by 20%. Oh, that's an easy one.
That's easy answer.
Go to my oncologist, and I'm at peace. It is like God, I was like, I can't, it's hard. How can I go to my oncologist and they tell me this and say I'm not going to do that? And knowing that, I'm not the expert, but I'm just thinking about my life and
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm
It's
working.
your life. Yes.
So I tell my family and I say, well, you know what? Chemo, as bad as I thought, I wanted to keep my hair. That's the best road because at least the consequences of the ill effects are
Mhm.
very nominal when you talk about over lifetime,
Mhm.
and especially radiation. I said, and I told the oncologist what my thoughts were and why I was struggling. She says, well, you know, um, that's not what I would recommend because um, that's not what I would recommend, but it does make sense. And in my heart and my spirit, that was God confirming. That's the best you're gonna get from her because she's got to
Yes.
protect herself, right?
Yes. That's
But
exactly right.
she's saying to you, that makes sense. And so I decided, I made that change. I changed, I went from, again, because I'm career woman, mama, everything
Mhm,
else,
mhm.
I'm not exercising, I'm not doing anything, and I'm eating all kinds of crazy ways with my because I'm too busy to do the things that were
Uh-huh.
best for me. I
Mhm.
changed that. The next thing I did was I did not like the fact that they didn't know what caused my cancer.
I want to stop for 1 second because you said something that I don't want you to gloss over. For those that are listening, you changed your lifestyle. You even say that in your bio.
Yeah,
You changed your lifestyle. So you started moving your body, you started exercising, and you started eating healthy. Now, the World Health Organization, um, the stat on lifestyle diseases, which cancer is considered a lifestyle disease in most cases.
that's
The
right.
the World Health Organization says that most of our diseases are less about what's hereditary, what's passed down through us genetically, and more about our lifestyle. And they
Culture.
call them lifestyle
That's
diseases:
it. That's it.
cancer, diabetes,
That's it.
heart disease,
That's it.
cholesterol, all
That's
those
it.
those things. And it's just tweaking
Yeah.
our lifestyle just a little bit could
Yeah.
improve. But certainly if we make major changes like exercising regularly, eating, changing our whole way of eating, resting, and all those kind of things. So I don't want you to gloss over that
No,
because
no. Yeah. Yeah.
you made some changes.
Well, let me speak on that. I will speak to that. In fact, halfway through, well, early in my journey, once I learned, my father's sister called me. So my aunt on my father's side. So I knew about my aunt who had breast cancer on my mother's side, but I got a call from my aunt, and again, perspective. She says, "Baby, now she is at the time 80, and she says, I hear you experiencing a little hiccup in your life." I said, "Little hiccup." Think it's a little bit more than that, but okay, let what you saying. And she said, "Well, about 40 years ago, I dealt with that same hiccup. Now, this is an aunt, I had no idea. Nobody, in fact, nobody in the family knew about it. And she said the reason she hadn't shared that because she knew she was not at 40 years prior, technology was nowhere close to
Nowhere
where
near.
it was. It
Mhm.
was almost barbaric, the things that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so she trusted, she said she identified a few women of God who were girlfriends, and she changed her diet. And let me talk about my aunt. Then this is the aunt that at our family gatherings we used to joke about her because everybody else bring all kinds of desserts and foods, and she would bring stuff like carrot juice and um celery juice and stuff. We're like, okay, now what is this stuff she's bringing to, and we used to laugh about what was our aunt bringing to the family gathering. But when she told me, because now understand, when I was told I had cancer and
Uh-huh.
all that, all they could tell me statistically is like within 5 years, you got a 95% chance of being, surviving. And I'm thinking 5 years, I'm 43, and then they said 10 years out. But
Mhm.
she said 40. I said, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now tell me what you do. Now I went from laughing about how my aunt
The
ate
carrot juice and
to
the
I was
celery
like, so you juice? So now what kind of juicer do you use? When I tell you, I hung up because all they needed was one witness of God and his mercy and his grace and his healing. I mean, literally, that was a game changer for me. I knew about the exercise, but this thing about the diet, because she did no type of treatments of any
Uh-huh,
sort.
uh-huh.
She did it total naturally, and she said that's why I didn't tell my family because I knew they would have had a fit, but this is what I was going to do. Now I said, now you real strong, and you're amazing. I can't do that one, but what I can do is take up. I'm going to go through the chemo treatment and all, but I'm going to change my diet. We went out, got a juicer. She told me what all the things she did. Um, and I started just focusing on the diet piece, which again, what was amazing about how much I learned in how the Bible, everything now that
Yeah,
we say is the way to do it. That's what God was saying
from
in
the
in
beginning.
in the Old
Mhm,
Testament when He
mhm.
was telling them what not to eat and what.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, even though New Testament gave us grace, it didn't change the nature of the items that we eat,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
I went to, okay, let's take out the pork, the swine, let's take out dairy. I learned so much about sugar when they were trying to figure out where the cancer was in my body. What they gave me was a substance that was sugar, because everything, all the activity, activity would go to the sugar where the sugar substance was. So then I realized how much sugar played a role in feeding cancer. So I removed sugar, simple sugar, from my diet. I took out pork out of my diet. I took out all dairy. Dairy mucus, cancer likes to live in mucus. So I
Mhm.
took out milk, replaced it with almond milk. I
Uh-huh.
took out,
Mhm.
sugar. I still like sweet, so I did, a little honey, did the
Yeah, yeah.
natural stuff.
Uh-huh.
And and so I really started looking at what God said about what was good to eat from the beginning.
Wow.
When I tell you, I did that not only for myself. When I did it because it was me. My husband said, "Nope. If you're doing, the whole family's doing it." We changed. No white bread. No white. I mean, we went strict, total. My 4-year-old decided, oh, he was going to. He didn't like that. He was going to strike. He wasn't going to eat. So he said, "Where my yellow Eggos?" And so he decided that he was gonna eat. That took maybe all of a day. Um, but I had a son. My oldest son had terrible asthma. He We changed the diet. He couldn't even. He was so as his asthma was so bad he couldn't participate in sports. He couldn't,
Mhm.
gym. We changed our diet. He went from not being able to participate in sports to he eventually he played football for Morehouse College. He went from
Wow.
my youngest, who I thought was all ADD. I was like, oh Lord, he gonna be on Ritalin and all that stuff. He was bouncing off the walls. I'm literally everybody in my
It improved
household
your whole.
benefit
Here's the purpose, though. You see, your whole house.
everything. And so I chronicled that because that was huge in my household. Went going from everything, and I started going, okay, I know you said you don't know what caused it, but like
Mm.
you said, I realized a sedentary lifestyle, eating the way we ate, which was eating out almost literally every day and I don't even like to say the places we would ate at. It was convenient.
Wow.
And just changing that whole thing turned, first of all, I was healthy. I was pre-diabetic before. It totally changed my cholesterol, my sugar, everything.
These changes, this stuff saved your life
Saved
and your
my life.
family's
My
life.
family, like honestly. And so by the time, even by the time I went to do for my surgery, they had said that the tumor that they had found was smaller even before I started my treatment.
Wow.
But I was like, I'm gonna go and do that treatment now. Like, listen, we're gonna zap it, and then we're gonna keep it moving, right? So I did all of that, and so I just started journaling all of this. My
Yeah.
family, they laughed. They were like, "Oh my gosh, y'all eating weeds and seeds." That's the minister, Reverend Brenda Troy's thing. Like weeds and seeds, and my parents, like, what are y'all eating? But it saved my life, and it changed my whole family. My husband lost weight. It was and it took us some time to figure out that
Mhm.
balance where it tastes good. You just can't go from eating what you everything and then figure out how to eat clean and
Mhm.
keep it
Mhm.
healthy and
So are
still
you
taste
all
good.
vegan?
No, we're not vegan. We do chicken and fish.
Okay.
Um, and but we pretty much now where we've spent a lot, and this is being blessed now. We went organic.
Okay.
So pretty much everything we do is organic or close to it as much
Okay.
as we can.
Okay.
Because I learned so much in that I took off. I started. I was diagnosed in October because of my
Mhm.
profession. I took off a semester in the spring, and then I had the
Mhm.
summer off, and
Mhm.
I just spent that whole time just like focused on understanding um, the diet, how God did it, how what
Okay.
man is making a lot of money off of the very thing that
Yeah,
just
yeah.
God laid
Mhm.
out in the Bible, and just trying to figure out how do I start this path in a way that I can sustain. And so there were things that I figured out I could do that was, moderate, and things that I felt like I had to be strict about in terms of whether or not it was going to be organic or natural or whatever. But yeah, so we're not vegan, we're chicken, fish. But we have not I have not and I cook. I figured out things that really make it work. um but it's changed. I
That's
am better.
good.
I was healthier on the other side. Now
Yeah,
isn't that
yeah,
great?
yeah,
After I
yeah.
went through
Healthier
all
on the
that,
other side of cancer.
on
I
the
love.
other side of cancer, mentally, mind
I'm
open.
glad you brought up mentally because I want to ask you because you talked about the physical changes you made,
Hmm.
and you somewhat talked about the mental piece when you talked about earlier how you had to your perspective. What kind of things did you do to bolster yourself and take care of your emotional self during that time? That your emotional and mental self.
um so
And
it's
spiritual.
that's interesting. I think the writing was so critical for me,
Okay.
um, because it gave me purpose.
Okay.
Like it gave the whole thing purpose to me, for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it was so bigger. And over time, because I had so many sisters and brothers
Mhm.
that were now looking to me as not like, oh, poor thing, but oh wow, because was intentional on walking the journey out loud, that I felt like the pressure was off for me to try to
Mhm.
pretend, because I think that's a lot of times what I saw with some of my sisters, like, because there were like 5 of us, and it's
Mhm.
interesting, 5 Black women under 40, triple negative. We were all in this like support group, because Champaign was so small, and so
That's
we
why I was
had
asking, so
each
you were
other.
a part of a support group?
Yeah, I was part of a support group.
Okay.
And to some extent, they were a little bit more private than I was.
Okay.
And I felt like because of that, that was an extra burden that they carried that I didn't. I was really, I tried to keep them encouraged. I remember losing my hair, and I mean, losing it all the eyebrows, the eyelashes, everything. And I remember having my sons help me select my first wig.
Mm.
And because I kept telling everybody, yeah, I know y'all said my hair, I'm gonna lose it. My hair's gonna grow. I used to like really try to be light, because I used to be the youngest. I used to be the kind of one of the youngest on the floor when we would have the treatments and stuff. And I remember I lost my hair that night, and my sons had bought me this long guy never wig. And I walked in, I was like, yeah, I told y'all. And they cracked up. I said, it is my hair. I bought it.
You listen, a
Yeah,
merry heart doeth good like
I,
medicine. That's a book.
I mean, I try to find humor in everything. I
Okay.
mean, that was to me the most important thing for me was, and I kept telling, if somebody came my way, I asked my friends, do not let somebody come in and be crying and giving me a pity party. I don't want that. I
Mhm.
need somebody who encourages me. I used to really ask them, protect my space. If
Mhm.
you know somebody's coming my way
Oh,
that is not
that's so important. Protect your
so
space.
protect my space. I just need people who will speak life. I just want people speaking life into me. I want encouragement. And I think that's how I no one, my husband, my sons, everybody, even when I didn't feel well. And, we all, we figured out ways. Like I remember one case I had to go, I was so tired. And I had to draw my eyebrows because I had nothing. It was real hot outside. And I remember going in the store, rushing, and it was hot, it was sweating, and I did like this.
And your eyebrow came
My
off.
eyebrow came off. I did not know it till I got in the car. And my sons looked at me and they said, Mom, I think you lost one of your eyebrows. And I looked and I said, oh, that was the funniest thing, girl. That eyebrow was way over. It was all into my hairline. But I encouraged them, because my sons were really young. I kept a wig on for the most part because it kind of shook them to see me
Mhm.
totally bald, because it was clean, like clean bald. And I would tell you, I had an amazing husband. I remember when my hair started coming out in patches, he and I kept, because I tried to hold on to my hair as long as I could, and he said, I'll cut it for you. And I wouldn't look, because you remember that was so, as Black women, our hair is so means so
Yeah.
much to
Our
us.
hair, yes, Lord.
And natural was not necessarily as
No, that
in
wasn't it then.
then. So this whole thing, and I remember keeping my eyes closed as I hear him buzzing, and it's going. I tell the story because it was funny, because he's bald. So I'm like the clippers. They were old. He was blowing dust out of where I was like, dude, you putting that in my hair. And at the end, I wouldn't even look. And he turned me around and he looked at me and he said, girl, you fine. And that was it. That's all. I mean, after I
That's all
turned
you
around,
needed.
it
That's
was
all you
that.
needed.
I protected. I had everybody. They protected my space. That was
Wow.
critical for me, for my mental health.
Wow. Whew, I heard support group. I heard writing. I heard
Yes,
protecting your space, and
yes,
laughter and
yes.
making light of some things.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Listen, this is just amazing. How can people? So all of this is in your book.
Every bit of it. In fact, let me tell you what's great about writing, because sometimes you will forget
Okay.
the journey and
Mhm.
how far, and writing how you felt in that moment. And
Okay.
then being on the other side to see how God saw you through. It was like,
Okay.
that's the kind of stuff where I would say, I would write, I would be very honest, God, I'm scared right here, but I would just write, but your scripture, in your word, you said this, but God, I'm not feeling this. And, I would write that. And then I would go through a treatment, or I'll go through and I know what they said was going to
Uh-huh.
happen. And then I would look back and flip through that journal. Even you don't have to write a book, but just a journal. And you
Uh-huh.
look back and say, look at God. That didn't even
Wow.
happen. That
Wow.
everything I had fear, because I realized that a lot of our mental piece is that we will narrate a story on an invisible stage that never
Oh, yeah.
happens.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It is this invisible stage that we will set up. Oh, this is gonna happen, blah, 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 and
Mhm.
it doesn't happen. So I stopped as I saw that was giving me anxiety. One of the things that I realized that my biggest need in protecting my mental health was every time I went to a doctor's office, a visit, because doctors, you go in there, they tell you everything. They go, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they gotta
Here's
they
what.
gotta give you the bad news.
That's the stuff that
Yep.
will
Yep.
set you off. And I
Uh-huh.
remember before every doctor's appointment, there was one sister who I knew could pray, could ring God. She had a direct line, and I would call
Okay.
her in the doctor's office. I said, "Are they about to call me in? I need a prayer." And she would set the atmosphere so that when I would go in, my perspective was right. So when I heard it, I didn't hear it from the flesh. I heard it
Okay.
from, this is what God, how God. But I needed that. So when I knew I was going to a space where I knew my humanity would be rattled, I would be, emotionally rattled. I had those few sisters that I could call that knew what to say, how to pray for me, how to encourage me before I would go
Okay.
into those spaces.
I'm writing, I'm putting, you see me typing, I'm typing the name of your book
Yes,
so that we can put it on the screen for those who
sure.
are watching us on YouTube. And I'll say it aloud for those who are listening to us via Anchor, um, or whatever podcast platform people are listening to us on. I want to encourage those of you that are not on my YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go there
That's
and
it.
subscribe to the YouTube channel, um, so that these type of conversations can be higher up in the Google searches when women like us,
That's
you
right.
heard her say, she got a study from a 70-year-old white woman in
Europe.
Europe. And so part of the issue is that there's not enough data and research for African American women, and there's not enough of us writing our story and telling our testimony.
That's
As
right.
like your aunt back in the day, people didn't talk, you couldn't say the word cancer. If
Sure
somebody in
couldn't.
the family had cancer, you didn't say it.
That's it.
You
That's
know,
right. That's right.
and
That's
so
right.
yeah, so we need these stories. So your book is My 7-Day Makeover,
Yes.
One Breast Cancer Survivor's Spiritual
Spiritual
Journey.
journey. That's it.
My
That's it.
7-Day Makeover. I'm going to get it today.
Okay.
One Breast Cancer Survivor's Spiritual Journey.
I'll send you a copy.
Okay, thank you. I want a
Yes.
signed copy, ma'am.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
I want a
Yes.
signed copy. And I really do. And I want to have you come back
Sure.
on and maybe we'll do a panel with you and a couple of other
Sure.
women who have this same testimony, just in this whole idea about changing our lifestyle. I think we
Oh,
need to have
yeah.
a conversation really about how to change our lifestyle, because we hear that
Mm-hmm.
often, but then sometimes we don't know how to make those changes. And so I'd
Right.
love to have you and maybe a panel. Maybe
Yes.
that's when we can get Brenda to come in
Yes.
and help us as well with this conversation.
Yes. Because
She'd be great.
that's her thing. That's her
Oh yeah,
strength. Yes.
that's
Yes.
her thing.
That's her
Yes.
thing.
So, and I know for me, I'm also a wellness coach and I coach women. I have about 4 clients right now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
coaching
Mm-hmm.
around this lifestyle changes. And it's hard. I'm telling you, when I'm meeting with them, just to get them to have the perspective of taking care of themselves first, it's amazing.
We're
They'll
not
take care of
taught that.
everything and everybody else first.
We
And then
do.
when I ask them about them, they have a million excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And this and everything takes precedent and priority over themselves. And that right there is where it starts.
That's right. That's
It
right.
starts here with
That's
how
right.
we see and how we prioritize ourselves. And
Yeah.
then how do we work it out practically, make
Right.
those changes
Right.
in our life. And then, you know, women, we set the tone for our house and we set the tone for our family. I know because I eat a certain way, my husband eats a certain way. And,
Hey,
you know,
that's
a
it.
few years ago, he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I went to the classes with him. They talked to us about how he needs to be eating. I was like, okay, then this is, you know, this is what we're going to do. And we both, it changed the way I was doing things, changed the way he was doing things.
That's it.
And now, I mean, he's maintained his weight loss. He lost over 25 pounds, maintained his weight loss. His A1C level is back in a normal range, all those kind of things. And I'm telling you, it's lifestyle. It's lifestyle choices. I'm so proud of him. He started working out this year. You know, I'm a workout fanatic.
Yes,
So,
I see you. You listen, and you're such a blessing because you are such a motivator. It's
and
just
that's
and
and
you
that's
doing
what I
that.
want to do.
Bless.
I want to
Yes,
motivate women. That's what this
yes,
podcast is about.
yes,
Helping women, particularly women of color, women of faith,
yes.
really, really take our health more seriously, not just our physical health, but our spiritual health, our mental health, every aspect of our being. Thus, harmonize your life.
That's it.
Conversations on self care for women of color. Thank you so much, Dr.
Oh, thank you for having me. You know, I told God, and I said that I said, God, you allow me to get through this. Every chance I get, I will tell my story. That was my thing with God. I said, I will always tell my story because it to me, because it made it so much bigger than me, because I knew that if I could encourage somebody else. And I would say that for any woman that's going through this, I think when you said mentally,
I'm
how
glad
did
you're
I go
going
through
there
with
because
that
I was going to ask you to give us, I want you to
last one?
speak directly to any woman that's listening to this and give her a word of encouragement. Will you do that?
I certainly will. Mentally, the way I chose to walk through this was trusting God and giving him the platform of my life so that others could see his goodness, his mercy, and his favor. And so, one of the things that when they told me that they didn't know what exactly caused it, one of the things I feel that has kept me and sustained me is that I decided I was going to do something to continue my healing and sustaining my healing. There were 5 of us that started this process. One of the things that we tend to do is once they give us medication and we stay on that medication, we go through that battle of taking all the medication, but then what happens afterwards? The way in which God showed me how I could maintain the kind of positive and encourage myself was to do something for myself. And that's why when I changed my diet and I changed my lifestyle, it was my way of honoring what God started in the healing process through man and medicine. Saying, God, I'm going to honor what you've done and I'm going to continue to move forward with the knowledge. I know better. And so now I will do better. And so I encourage any woman that's in this space that take ownership of this and move forward with knowing better and doing better, and God will bless.
Wow. Thank you. Because when we know better, we should do better.
That's it. That's
We
it.
should do
And
better.
God will honor whatever that effort is. You know, you might not have to do, God honors every little step of it.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you don't have to do all that I did. You can't afford, but God will honor just those steps towards the right direction. I am a witness.
Thank you. Listen, you all, I know you were blessed by this testimony today. This is Dr. Cynthia Turner. She is a professor at the Ohio State University, teaching and serving in the DEI space
Mhm.
in the Max M. Fisher College of Business there. I
Yes.
want you to go and get her book. Please go get her book. Support a sister who's
Mhm.
writing, and get one more than one copy. Get one for somebody else. I'm still gonna buy a copy.
Okay.
Give me a signed copy, but I'm gonna buy one and
Okay.
share it with
Absolutely.
someone really special. So
Now
her
you gonna
book,
make me make sure I have enough in in stock. So I
okay,
appreciate you, sis. I'm gonna do
okay,
that.
good, good. All right, get her book, My 7-Day Makeover, One Breast Cancer Survivor Spiritual Journey. I also want you to follow. You can find her. You can find Dr. Turner on Facebook at Cynthia Williams Turner, and you can also find her at fisher.osu.edu. You can go there, and she's doing some amazing work there on the and in the business school college, Fisher Business College at The Ohio State University. This podcast, Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. You can find us on Anchor, on Google, on Spotify. Also, please go to my YouTube channel. You've already heard me give a spiel for that. Go there and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll be notified every time one of these conversations are uploaded. We upload new episodes every Monday during our season of recording our podcast. We're in the season 8 right now. We're in the month of October, and we are talking to survivors of breast cancer and domestic violence during this month. Thank you again,
Thank you.
Dr. Turner, for being my dialogue partner today and
Yes.
encouraging the women to take care of themselves,
Amen. Thank
cooperate
you.
with God, and take
Yes.
care of themselves. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Amen.
I'll see you all again next week for another intriguing podcast conversation with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. See you soon. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado, and I want to personally invite you to join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. Join us for fitness motivation, health and wellness information, inspiration, self-care strategies, and ideas for creating harmony in your life. As a certified health and wellness coach, it is one of my greatest honors to support women in their fitness, health, wellness, and self-care goals. Join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, and we will do you good on your journey.